Welcome back to another Three Things with TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm staff writer Chelsea Sipple, and this is Andrew Jones. We're here in the Dean E. Smith Center after Carolina's win against Miami. UNC 92, Miami 73. And AJ, this game we had 6 Tar Heels score in the double figures in 5th straight win. But before we get into our first thing, our subscribers, they can get free THI. Can you tell them how?
All of our platforms. Yeah, all of the platforms. Our subscribers have THI. Our subscribers on Tar Heel Illustrated. What we're doing, we're giving away free THI. We're going to randomly choose people who sign up on our Facebook, on our Twitter/X, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have goals, 20,000 for YouTube, 40,000 for Twitter, 12,000 for Facebook. We're well on the way, Facebook and YouTube. No doubt we're going to hit that. We're a little bit lacking on Twitter, but it was also a very ambitious goal to get to 40,000. And basically, we got to be there by the end of the basketball season. I may push the Twitter thing back some, but if we do reach those goals, and we will for Facebook and YouTube, new followers/subscribers like to the YouTube channel will be randomly chosen to win free THI. We're going to pick 2 people from YouTube to win 2 years of THI. Others, we're going to give them 1 free year to our site, which is worth $100 a year. We charge it works out to $833 a month. There's a ton of stuff you get there that you'll never get on these videos, and you'll never get on our free articles or posts on Twitter or anything like that. There's a lot more information that we have there. You would have known in early December Carolina was going to hire a GM for basketball if you were on THI. So if you want it for free, follow us, subscribe, and you may get chosen.
No, that's a great opportunity right there. And like AJ said, that's the best content for Carolina fans. So definitely check that out. Now, AJ, we're going to kick off our first thing. At 31-27, Coach Davis called a timeout late in the first half, around 7 minutes, 15 left in the first half. Mm-hmm. And you saw him. He was super animated, kind of tearing the team up a bit. We heard him in the post-press conference. He said the discipline and details weren't there, so he really went in on them.
Yeah, I asked him, and he started smiling because he knew where I was going with it. And the player smiled. Seth, I'll tell you what, that's the most irate, animated I've seen him at a game. I mean, he was going onto the court. Going onto the court and letting them have it, and he didn't let up the entire timeout.
No, just the whole 30 seconds.
But it was a TV timeout because it was 7:15, so it went for like 3 minutes. And he kept going. Now, after about 30 seconds, someone had to give him a towel. And Seth Trimble joked that he was so animated that he was working up a big-time sweat, and he had to blot his face and his head and all that kind of stuff. So, and Hubert had some fun with that as well. I think that what makes this a great sign, not a great sign that they weren't paying attention to the details and all that kind of stuff. They were kind of going through the motions for stretches, and they had some pretty good spurts where they had the kind of energy they had in Tallahassee, for example. Didn't have that consistently today. But what this says, and I thought he gave a great answer because he, after a while, got into some pretty good stuff. To do that when they're ahead, that's the kind of thing I saw him do in South Bend when Notre Dame was on a run and they were behind, or wherever, Duke when they're on a big run, or when Clemson's on a big run. He did it with them ahead. Now, Miami's not a good team. They're struggling, and that's part of it. They should be ahead in the game like that, but they were – I don't think it even felt at that time like they were in position to lose. And he probably knew that, but there is a standard. There's a consistency that you have to carry from game to game. And when Jacob and I did our basketball show the other day, that's what we said was so key about this game. You got to come out, and if you truly are different, you got to continue being different. It can't depend on who you're playing. So I think there was a little bit of that there. So then he goes into this explanation that I thought was really, really interesting. I've heard coaches say it before. It makes a lot of sense where he said, look, he tells them to block out the noise when they're not doing well, but also when they are doing well. And it's harder to block it out when you're getting praise. Mm-hmm. And they won 4 in a row, and people cheered Cade Tyson when he went on the court tonight. They're excited about Jay Witt, the people that were critical before and all that kind of stuff. Suddenly the tone has changed and the tune has changed, and it's really easy to listen to the attaboys. So they've been getting a lot of them, and I think there was a little bit of that in this game, and he was trying to scream that out of them, if you will. And it worked a little bit because they closed the half on a 12-2 run, closed up 15, 46-31. It was 4-point margin when he called that timeout. So I think this was a great teaching moment for him and a reminder that, yeah, you had won 4 in a row coming in. You looked pretty good. You checked a lot of nice boxes. But, man, that's just 4 games. You've got to keep it going. There is no letting up. And they had some spurts in the second half where they were really good. And I think that they knew that they were not in danger. And human nature sometimes sets in, Chelsea, where they also had stretches where there wasn't much defense being played and offense was sloppy and all that. But they still got a 19-point win. And I think Hubert made his point. And I guarantee you when they look at film tomorrow, they will look at why he called that timeout. He will revisit that moment, because if they take that up to Blacksburg Tuesday, as much as the Hokies are struggling, Hokies are a lot better than Miami. And they could create a dangerous situation for themselves if they carry that stretch up to Blacksburg. So I think that was a really good March 1st teaching moment for the head coach.
Me too. I mean, that was quite an energetic timeout, to say the least. But you know what? It did what they needed to do after it. So
absolutely,
take it while you can. Second thing is, statistically, Tar Heels played pretty good. Again, 5th win in a row. UNC out-rebounded the Hurricanes 38-26. 6 Tar Heels scored in the double figures. We had Jalen Withers with a double-double, 11 points, 10 rebounds. Again, all this in consideration, it's not really a good Miami team. They're struggling there. But kind of just hone on what these statistics mean.
Well, they were doing this against FSU.
Yeah.
I think Jay Wood had a double-double down in Tallahassee.
Mm-hmm.
I think the consistency of the numbers matters, because even in a day where they left some points at the rim in the first half, I think that they went through periods in the second half where there was a lot more dribbling and there wasn't as much fluidity. In fact, at one point they had 15 assists on 22 baskets, and then they had 16 assists on 27, so only one of their next 5 baskets they had an assist on. So they kind of went away from it a little bit, but they still, the point that they reached at the end, 92 points, which is around their average during the 5-game win streak, which is pretty wild, because in the 4 games before that, they averaged 66.5 points. Having 6 guys in double figures for the second straight game, they're generally getting 4 right now at the minimum. And a different leading scorer in this game being Van Allen Lubin, which was his highest scoring game for Tar Heels. So what you're seeing is some consistencies, guys that are comfortable playing with each other, and a bunch of different dudes scoring. They had 8 different players score by the second TV timeout in the game. And then when Tyson came in, he hit a free throw, so he scored. So all 9 rotation players scored well before the end of the first half. I think that that's important. I think it's important because on a day where someone could have hunted points, nobody really hunted points. RJ took some shots that RJ is going to take. People on social media are calling him, he's a gun, he's trying to hunt points, and he's going for this mark or that mark. It's just his game, and I think Hubert's okay with it. Otherwise, RJ would stop. Hubert would make him stop. So you got to live with that, and if he hits a bunch of them, people aren't complaining. So I think the consistency offensively, I think the sharing of the ball, when you look at the different guys that have assists now as opposed to a month ago, it's just a wholly different offensive team. Their approach, as we talked about many times, by going big, everybody's at their natural position. Even when they bring subs in, they had a short period where Drake was at the 4, and then they had 3 guards on the floor, and Lubin was at the 5. So they were 6'8", 6'6", 6'4", 6'3", and 6'3", 6'1", and 6 feet. They weren't very big, but they could afford to get away with it in a game like this because they were up 18 at the time. So they weren't in danger there. So I think what they're learning and discovering is the fun in comfort, the fun in being connected, the fun in seeing other guys have success and being a part of it with an assist or the pass that leads to the assist, and how much easier it makes when they get the ball later on in the game, because defenses have to honor everyone that's on the floor. And that's why you see more uninterrupted stuff to the lane, whether it's Lubin a bunch of times, whether it's some of Elliott's drives or his dunk. When he called Lubin out for the screen in the second half, he screened him. Elliott right down the middle and dunked. The help side defense isn't there for opponents as much now because they have to honor everybody on the floor, and these guys see it. So that degree of difficulty is not as much now as it with their shots as it was earlier in the year because of that. So 92 points, 6 guys in double figures. Another game, the Tar Heels shot 50% in both halves. They have now shot 50% or better in 8 of the last 9 halves. It's not just 1 or 2 guys. It's a bunch of guys. And if you want a team to feel really good about itself, and feel good about one another, and be locked in arms on March 1st, Hubert Davis has found a way to get that with this club because that's the way they are right now. Even when they know what he called the timeout for in the first half, even when they know they go through periods where they're not very good defensively. But they're checking all those other boxes. And maybe the most important one is the comfort and connection that they have that will be tested next weekend. But it's also been tested a little bit here the last 5 games, and it's been a lot better than it's been in any 5-game stretch this year, regardless of the competition. So all of that is a positive for this team right now.
Absolutely, AJ. And we've touched on this 5-game stretch, and it's really not just this game, but they've kind of been treating some of these past games like elimination games for the tournament, which has been a big question for Tar Heel fans and kind of probably a question for the team at times. So just kind of touch about, and I know we asked Coach Davis about this, but playing with that edge in the tournament coming up.
We got Seth Trimble and his crew out on the court right now.
Yeah.
Pat's, you could see it on WRL because Pat's filming it. Yeah, that's what they said today.
Yeah.
I was hunting for something. Going back to hunt, I'm using the word hunt a lot in this podcast. I was hunting to see what they would say about Quad 1 stuff, their net ranking, how much they pay attention to it, and also about the sense of urgency that they have little room for error. Now, a couple of them, like Jay Witt and Van Allen Lubin, said they don't even pay attention. I asked Van if he knew what their net ranking was. He had no idea. Jay Witt, I had to explain to him what Quad 1 wins were. Top 30 at home, top 50 on neutral site, top 75 on the road. He didn't know. But they do know that they can't afford to lose. Yeah. And even though they didn't have great energy today, they had enough. But I think if they played a better team, they would have had more energy during that 40 minutes because it required more. So part of that was the opponent. They just knew they were going to win. Miami doesn't really play much defense, so they weren't tested mentally there. Their test was more themselves, and they had enough pushes where they were able to get the job done. But I do think it's interesting. They're very aware. Seth Trimble's absolutely aware of what they cannot do if they want to get into the tournament. They're not going to talk Duke, and I think the closer Duke comes, the more they're focused on the moment right in front of them. They don't want to look too far down the road because that's going to be a game where a lot of people say, okay, let's see how improved you really are, because that first game in Durham was a disaster for the Tar Heels. So I kind of like the approach. You can almost say that they're playing NCAA tournament games now in some ways, because if they would have lost any of these last 5, they would have been in a really bad situation. They would have been in a situation where beating Duke would be great, but they probably still have to win the ACC tournament. They can't afford to go to Blacksburg and lose because that would do the same thing to them. So they understand these things, and they're approaching things accordingly. It's not their biggest mission. It's not second or third on the checklist, but fans should know they're aware. Even though Venn and Jay Witt couldn't tell you what their quad run record is, they know they need to win. They know they can't afford to lose, which is enough. And it's probably good. Guys aren't diving into – no, Armando always knew it last year. Seth knows it, although he deflected it someday. Armando always knew. He would talk about the game. Well, we needed a quad 2 win. We need to stack those with quad 1 wins. He would say that kind of stuff. But Armando's a different bird. Armando's just a different guy. This group here, I think that they struggled so much for a while that collectively they probably don't want to talk those numbers too much, but they do know, and I will emphasize, Chelsea, they know they can't afford to lose. And so even when there was little pushes by Miami, Hubert got on them, and they responded, and sometimes they got on each other, and they were able to get one another to respond. Seth even said, look, I don't get mad at a guy for taking a shot and missing a shot. I don't get mad at a guy sometimes because another guy just cleared him out, got a rebound, or got a long rebound that went his way. I will get on guys if they don't rotate defensively. I will get on guys they don't communicate. I will get on guys they don't set a good screen, because those are the things that lead to everything else being easier. We were just talking about. And they know that if things are easier, they have less of a chance of losing a so-called elimination game. So I think that that's a pretty healthy approach overall, that they're aware of it, but they're not totally hell-bent on it, but it does give them a little bit of fuel.
Absolutely. And so coming up this week, the Tar Heels play Virginia Tech and Blacksburg, which you'll be covering, AJ. Never miss a game. So yeah, just the next step in the elimination thought approach, I guess you could say so.
Yeah, next time we're here, it's Duke. So they should win up in Blacksburg, but you never know. This will be another test to see if this team has hurdled some of its internal obstacles of playing down to the competition, or sometimes not handling success very well. Football and basketball have had that problem around here. Basketball not last year, but they've had that problem around here at times the last few years. So that'll be one of the tests for this team. They're going to have to treat that like an elimination game, like a Dayton game or something like that in a tournament. So, and they can't afford to lose it. If they lose it, their best shot, if they do get the NCAA tournament, would be starting in Dayton. They don't want to do that. They want to avoid that. Take care of business in Blacksburg. Beat Duke next week, which is a monumental task. Win a couple games in Charlotte, and they won't have to worry about Dayton.
Yeah. Well, we shall see. That concludes our three things. Thank you to the viewers for watching again. UNC 92, Miami 73. And AJ and I will be back.
Thanks.